Welcome to Creative Piecemeal. I'm Tammy Takeishi, a board-certified music therapist. Join me each week as a new guest from across the fine and creative arts spheres shares struggles, triumphs, laughs, words of wisdom, and more in authentic, thought-provoking, and inspiring interviews. Hello and welcome to Creative Piecemeal. Today I am joined by Dutch-Americana artist Pien. She's gearing up for the release of her debut EP, According to Plan, which is out May 23rd. So depending on when you're listening to this and when this drops, it'll either already be out or it will almost be out. She describes her EP, According to Plan, as an EP about finding peace with reality and how unpredictable and unfair life can feel/be sometimes. It's about accepting that dreams and perspectives can change, and that's okay. This EP feels extra special to me because I feel this is the first time in my career so far that I really show off all of my colors and truest version of myself. It also showcases the best of my vocal and writing abilities up to date. I can't wait to share this little piece of me with the rest of the world. And I'm really excited. I've had a little bit of a listen to some of the songs. And as a songwriter myself, it's just, I completely understand. You're just pouring your soul into music, and it feels like your heart's ripped open, your diary's wide open there for everybody. I can't wait to talk about the process, but I'd love to start with who or what inspired you to become a musician and a songwriter.
Absolutely. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. It's always just fun to just chat on a deeper level about these things than just, I have an EP out and that's it. So thank you so much for having me. It's a weird one for me because my mom always jokes that I came out singing. I was just always singing and humming, and it was always such a natural thing for me. And I was just obsessed with just the whole concept of being on stage and sharing all your thoughts in song. So I did loads of musical theater when I was young. And there is this country artist in the Netherlands called Ilse de Lange. And she was the first one that really showed me like, hey, I'm a woman with my guitar on stage and I sing these beautiful songs that we maybe only know from American culture, but now I'm doing my spin on it. And I think that she was really the first one who showed me that you can kind of do your own thing, and that's appreciated.
Excellent. What do you think was one of the most, exciting or cathartic or however you want to word it, things about writing and producing your EP?
It was a funny process because I've been working on this for the last two and a half years in really song by song. At first, I wasn't really thinking about putting it together as an EP, but then I decided to go for it because I felt I was ready for that. It was funny because we already recorded 3 out of the 5 songs before I realized, oh, this is my genre. We worked on the first song of the EP called Not Yet. And that was, for me, the first time that I felt like I found my genre. I found my signature and my style. And it was just such an eye-opening experience because it was so much fun and it felt so familiar. And it actually just proved to me that I can just sit back and relax and let the instincts just do all the work and not overthink the process or the genre or whatever, what I did in the beginning of my career, which was such a relief that you can actually sit back and just let your instinct do the work. So that was, I think, well, and then of course we also had the Dutch one, which was at the end of the EP, I do a song fully in Dutch because I like to touch on that every so often, but I feel half English and half Dutch doesn't really work. And funnily enough, I actually went to New York for that song to record all the strings and the orchestral pieces for it with a friend of mine who lives in New York. So that was a very special experience to record a song in a language that nobody really understands in the country you're recording it. So that was quite an interesting process. So I would say those 2 songs were the most memorable when it comes to recording them and working on them.
So I can only speak for myself in terms of a songwriting process. And for me, I will often start with a lyric.
Mm-hmm.
How do you start?
Oh, I always find that a tricky question because it just really depends on the song. And it's interesting. So the song that I just touched on, Not Yet, I actually written that song back in the pandemic when I still lived in the Netherlands, really out of an emotion. I was feeling something. I find it hard sometimes to plan writing sessions with myself in because when I feel it in the moment and then grab my guitar and then write it down works 9 out of 10 times better for me than sit down and write something. But again, it depends on the song. But for this song was interesting because I wrote it back in the pandemic in that way, like feeling something, writing the words down, and then the music came. But then I moved to Scotland to do my master's there. And then we recorded the song for a project in a very acoustic-y kind of way with just a piano and an electric violin and me. And then we kind of released the song, but then I was a bit embarrassed about like the quality of how, because I had no idea that you need to record the song. You need a mixing engineer, a mastering engineer. So I just put it there on Spotify. And then after a few months, I was like, oh no, this is really ugly. I can't just throw that in the world. So I deleted it. And then we were working on this EP and I was like, oh, there's still this song that I kind of want to give another go. And that was Not Yet. So it was interesting to go back and then almost like countryfy it or Americanify it. And it's just so special to see how a song that I wrote almost 5 years ago has been with me all this time. And how the emotion where it started from is so different from what it ended up or how I'm feeling now about that situation. And I think that's why Not Yet is my favorite song on the EP because of that little journey.
What was something that was challenging for you regarding this EP that you feel comfortable sharing?
Oh, absolutely. I'm an open book, so I'm probably oversharing in some of these answers. Oh, that's a tricky one. I guess it was, there's one. So basically this EP is like an Indie-Americana dream pop kind of fusion, that which means that most of the songs are very big in composition, in sound effects, that kind of stuff. And I felt after 3 songs of that, you might want a little breather, or at least I felt that I needed a little breather. So I wrote this song called Done about the music industry and how toxic it can be and how it can take such a hold on you and you feel like you're suffocating sometimes and you need to reclaim your freedom to be able to maintain your mental health and that kind of stuff. And I think it was really hard for me not to add anything to that because it's literally just me and a piano and there's in the back like a very dreamy kind of synth, but that's it. And I was very tempted in the process of recording this to add more, do more vocally. Like I'm a sucker for like a 3-part harmony or very complicated kind of vocals or whatever. And I really needed to like stop myself from not doing that because I was like, no, think of the purpose of this song on the EP, how it will all sound together. And I'm very happy I actually did listen to that because I played it now for the first time live last week during our release show. And so many people came up to me that they really appreciated almost like the silence of the song or the little breather that this song gives you or allows you to. So yeah, that was definitely the hardest, but maybe the most rewarding one because of that.
What is it like to play them live and get that kind of feedback?
It's weird, especially for the Dutch one, because I don't really expect people to enjoy that song because you can't understand it. But then on the other hand, why shouldn't you be able to enjoy music you don't understand the lyrics from? But in my mind, I don't know, maybe it was a bit of black and white thinking of me. But I expected people not necessarily to mention that song. And then we played it live last week in London. And so many people were like bobbing along with their heads during that song and coming up to me afterwards and saying that that was one of their favorite songs. So that was like a huge surprise for me. And it's funny because I told myself for the release of this EP not to care so much about what other people think, because I'm just so proud of it and I want to keep that feeling. I want to keep a hold on that. But then actually everyone I spoke to really loves it and feels it's a very grown up version of me, especially if compared to my earlier work. And then I'm more grounded. And I was really surprised by the grounded part, because yes, I do feel more grounded overall. Not always, but overall. But it's interesting that I wasn't really thinking about that while recording the songs, and it's still filtered through. So that's quite interesting and surprising in a way.
What is one of your favorite parts about the creative process?
Ooh, well, I love to collaborate with others. It's interesting because I'm part of like an all-female group here in the UK called Amplify Her. And it's basically a group for females in the industry that can be producers, singers, songwriters, A&R people, anyone in the music industry. And it's funny because every time when I meet new people, they always ask me, oh, why don't you produce yourself? Because it's cheaper and it's fun. And I really just love to collaborate with people and really pick people who are the best at what they're doing, to learn from them and to get inspired by them. And I think that's why I haven't learned yet how to produce myself, because I just love to sit down with producers, especially the ones. I'm a very loyal person, so if I like working with you, I probably will be doing that for the next 2-3 years, if not longer. So it's just nice to sit down with these collaborators that you already know and trust to really go into a different direction or just try to discover something else. And what I really loved about this EP was actually for the first time I was working with a whole team. So I had one mixing engineer who did all the songs, because I produced this EP with 3 producers. So it was really important for me that I had someone who was kind of keeping it all sound-wise together and sounded very smooth, and it all belongs together and is on their own little island. And with a mastering engineer, and then I had a whole team for like the visual part of it, and like a graphic designer for the artwork and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I just love to work with other people, because I don't think I'm an expert necessarily in what I do. I just do it in my own way. And again, I just love to learn from other people and to meet other people as well and just have fun and not make it too seriously, because I feel as soon as things are too serious, at least for me, I start overthinking. And that's the last thing that you want, because you just want to trust your instincts and just go with that. And I really can't wait to work on new stuff. And I'm already thinking about, oh, what shall we do next? And to collect a new team for that, or probably the same team, but maybe add some new people to that. So I'm always really excited for that part. It doesn't matter what I do, if it's music or a live show. Yeah.
Did you always know you wanted to be a songwriter?
No. A singer, yes, but a songwriter, no. I don't know why, but I'm just obsessed ever since I was a little girl by watching music documentaries. So I remember the Katy Perry one, the Part of Me one. I was a huge Katy Perry and Lady Gaga fan. I had that documentary on DVD. I was just binge watching it as much as I could. And I know in the Netherlands, the end of the year near when it's like Christmas time, there are loads of music documentaries on TV. And I remember always watching those, and you don't really see the creative process in those documentaries when it comes to songwriting, only in, oh, I have to do a show now and I have to take care of this and that. So never really thought about it, but I was always writing short stories and poems. And it's very common in the Netherlands to translate English songs into Dutch. So I did that a lot, actually. So I was always writing and I really enjoyed writing, but I never actually put one and one together until literally the pandemic. And I went through a very traumatic breakup. And that was actually the first time that I felt I had the time and the space to do that, because before that I was just playing covers on my guitar and never really thought about writing my own stuff. So no, but hey, that's I guess part of the plan and according to plan in a way.
What is something that caught you by surprise, good, bad, whatever, neutral, about getting this EP together?
Well, I knew it would take me a lot of time, and especially afterwards. So I finished the EP in November, and then I believe we were done with all the masters in early January. And I did that on purpose to then release the EP in May, because I knew for like the marketing campaign and stuff, you need loads of time. And I wanted to do like a 6-week release strategy and stuff. And it's funny because so many people told me when they heard I would do like a 6-week strategy that I was crazy or it's going to be very exhausting. And I really underestimated that, because I was like, oh, how hard can it be just releasing a song every 6 weeks? But then you underestimate like the whole social media part of it, and that you're doing events and interviews like these and shows. So I think I really underestimated that. And when we did so last week on the release date of the EP, we played my first ever headline show, and I was maybe a bit naive in selling the amount of tickets. I was going to be honest. In the end, we didn't sell as many tickets as I wanted to be, and I was really nervous about that. But I feel ready now for the next show, because now I know what it will, like what I can expect and stuff. So funnily enough, it has more to do with things after finishing the EP than the EP itself. But yeah, like I said, it's the first time doing this all by myself. I'm just a little indie artist, no label or whatsoever. I do everything myself. So I feel I learned a lot from doing this all together for the first time. And I know I will be better prepared next time.
And, I think it's great, whatever journey people are on, whether indie or label signed or hybrid of some kind, I think it's fantastic that you're doing what you're doing, you're doing what you love.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I never had so much fun. Of course, it's my first EP, but so far creating all of this, and the show itself was great because I picked some amazing support acts who ended up being friends of mine. And it was just basically a night full of friends. I became really good friends with loads of people who were in the team for the EP as well. So it kind of feels like a celebration of friendship as well. New friendships, old ones. And yeah, I couldn't be. I feel so lucky, really.
If we were to sneak a peek at your music collection, what are some albums we might find from when you were in high school and college era?
Oh, God. Well, it's funny. I collect vinyl, and most of my collection is actually my dad's from the 70s, 80s. And it's cute because some of his records still have his name on it, or he circled songs that he liked on the back and like kind of tried to erase the ones he didn't. So I just love that. I will never sell those records. It's kind of funny because I grew up with a dad who loved U2 and a mom who loved Ella Fitzgerald. And then I listened to pop music when I was in my teens, and then secretly country music because that wasn't cool back in, God, was it 2010, 2012? Yeah, wasn't cool at all. So I was secretly like listening to country music and pretending that I just like pop. Like I said, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga. I think it's also just a show influence that I really liked with the costumes and everything. So yeah, I listened to a lot of Teenage Dream, Katy Perry when I was in my teens. And in college, finally, like what my music taste is now actually slipped through. So that's just looking at it right now. It's Joni Mitchell, it's Elton John. I love Fleetwood Mac. My boyfriend and I just started rewatching Daisy Jones and the Six for the third time because I'm just so obsessed with Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks. And yeah, Rumors. I just can't stop listening to Rumors. And I was thinking about it the other day. Is there actually a song I don't like on Rumors? And I don't think there is one. I just love them all.
Do you think that any of the Fleetwood Mac flavor will wind up in some of your future songs?
Oh, I hope so. It's hard because I don't want to steal their magic and then pretend to be a ripoff. But I'm already singing a few of their songs in my set as a cover. I'd always do like 1 or 2 covers in my sets for live shows. And now we picked Don't Stop because I felt it was a good closing number. People go home dancing, that kind of stuff. I hope so. Actually, now listening to that music again because of rewatching Daisy Jones and the Six, I'm like, maybe that can be for the full album. My plan is to, well, don't pin me down on it, but hopefully the next album will be a full album. And I would love to experiment to see how far we can go with the Fleetwood Mac kind of sound and how it doesn't sound like a ripoff, but more like inspired by. But yeah, there's still so much for me to explore since I recently, like with this EP, found out that my genre, or I actually named it Indie-Americana. But I feel there's so much to explore, which I'm already working on music for the end of the year, new songs outside of the EP. And that's definitely more folky Americana kind of stuff. So maybe that's just that side of the spectrum. And then later, maybe next year, we can try to put more Fleetwood Mac in there.
So obviously you write your own lyrics as well. Are there any favorite lyrics that really stand out to you where you're like, wow, I wrote that? I love that. You know, like any favorite lines?
Oh, well, actually, for the title track of the EP, According to Plan, I worked with a Dutch producer who really pushed me on the lyrics. According to Plan is basically a love song. I don't really like to write love songs because I feel, especially as a woman, you have so much more to talk about or sing about than just silly love songs. But this song is basically about how I didn't expect to find love in this way. And then I had this plan for my life. And I never thought that love would find its place in there, like in a romantic partner, that kind of stuff. And I'm just thinking, I'm just really proud of those lyrics because I feel like that producer was really right in pushing me like that, which it was a totally new experience for me because most of the time producers, at least the ones I've worked with, don't really want to touch your lyrics unless there's like a spelling mistake or whatever. I'm just, it's so hard if someone tells you, oh, what are your lyrics? And then of this song, and then you're like, I know I wrote them, but I have actually no idea. I'm just thinking, oh, this is so bad. You really put me on the spot here.
I'm sorry.
No, that's totally fine. Oh yeah, I love this line. It's maybe a bit on the nose, but I thought it was quite clever. It's the first verse is I never thought I would say I love you so easily. I always thought that was the hardest part of a new you and me. I thought that was clever. I don't know if you could say that about your own lyrics, but I remember writing that one and I was like, oh, that's a good one. And actually every time when I sing it, I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty clever. Especially with cheesy love songs, which still, I think I did a good job with not writing a too cheesy kind of love song with this one. It probably will be the only one I'll ever write. Well, never say never, but yeah, I like the hardest part of a new you and me because it's not so on the nose to say like, oh, this person and I, or my lover and I, or whatever. So yeah, I really like that one. I'm proud of that one.
Was there any song where you felt like you had writer's block at all?
Oh, I know Done came out very easily, but that was mainly because I wrote that after I had an agent years ago and I was really upset with, and they basically inspired me to write this song because I was so fed up with everything. So that was an easy one. The Dutch one, I can't honestly really remember because that's also almost 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I wrote this. I know it was very smooth as well. I guess according to plan again, because I was really being pushed by this producer and it was just bits and bobs that he wanted me to change. And sometimes I do write songs in like a very structured rhyme scheme. And sometimes I don't. I'm just like, oh, whatever. I just ignore the whole scheme. I'll just do whatever. And that was a little bit with this one, but I knew I had to create like a more traditional structure for it to really work and kind of play with that cheesiness that is very rhymey and whatever. But I wanted to do it in a clever way. And I remember a friend of mine, she is, I guess you can call her stuff actually also Indie-Americana, thinking about it now. Her name is Judy Blank, and we did a session one time. And she told me, why don't you look for near rhymes instead of like obvious rhymes. And that really helped me to get in the right headspace for according to plan. Because yes, most of them are obvious rhymes, but then others aren't. And I think that piece of advice really inspired me to, instead of going to like rhymezone.com or whatever and just look for the obvious rhyme, to search for the near rhymes because they're more interesting. And also I love to listen to lyrics first rather than music when I listen to a song. And I think there are more people like that. And it's just interesting to give them a cool bit of text than just whatever. So I kind of did that for people who also like to listen to more, first listen to lyrics and then to music. Yeah.
What are some things that you like to do when you're not making music?
Oh, well, it's funny. So I'm, besides a musician, also a stylist, a fashion stylist, and I help actually fellow indie artists with finding their look. I call it a signature look. And it's really fun. And I'm a very creative person. Like when I was a little girl, my mom always made sure that I would paint or color or be creative any kind of way. And I feel nowadays I still need to put my creativity in other things than just music or performing or thinking about a concept of a show. So I love that I'm a stylist as well. So I can also put that in clothes. And I just love vintage shopping and going to random flea markets and have like a little scavenger hunt and just try to find something and then come home with it. And sometimes it needs like a little upcycle. I know in the pandemic, I tie-dyed a lot. I still do that when I have like a boring old t-shirt. Or I remember when we went to New York, I actually bought some plain white t-shirts just at a Goodwill. And then as soon as I got home, I just tie-dyed them. Now they're my favorite t-shirts. And I actually, well, this week I'm lucky because I'm going to the theater 3 times this week, which is not a normal thing, but I just love to go to the theater. And I used to go a lot to museums as well. I haven't done that in ages, but I guess anything cultural, I just really like to get inspired by random things and by familiar things. Because sometimes I feel, especially with scrolling on social media, not all day, but a great amount of your day, it just makes you a bit brain dead and not very creative. But maybe that's just me. So I just like to be stimulated by things like art, or not even, I can't really listen to other people's music anymore. I try to do it though, with new stuff, but sometimes I feel my brain is just so fried that it just wants the familiar stuff. And I'm also someone who only listens to albums. I don't really like playlists. I'm a bit old school when it comes to that. So whenever an artist has an album, though, I will be the one that's listening to it. But if someone just has singles, I find it hard sometimes to listen to that. But long story short, I like to be creative and go to creative places to get inspired.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that, in terms of going to concerts, going to musicals, going to museums, being outside, it's just so important to soak it in.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you have any favorite spots in the country that you're presently living in?
Ooh. Well, so currently, I live half of the time in Amsterdam and then half of the time in London. And at the moment I'm in London, and I live in I live in West London, which is very green. And lately I haven't done that many walks, but normally I take a walk every day for like 40 minutes to the river, to like the Thames and back. And there's this gorgeous little pathway along the river with like old buildings and very cute pubs along the water. And I just love to walk there. And especially when it's like a sunny day and people come back from work and they're just chatting on the terrace with their pint in their hand. I just really love watching that. And it makes me very grateful that I live in such a cool place in this city. And that's why I love London actually so much, because it's so green. There's so many parks. I used to live next to Hyde Park. That was my first apartment in London, which was a nightmare because of all the tourists. But it was nice that you had such a big green space. And I would definitely, when it comes to vintage shopping, I would definitely recommend Brick Lane instead of Camden. because Camden is just so busy. And Brick Lane is cheaper also than Portobello Road in Notting Hill. So if you're on a budget, then I would definitely go to Brick Lane. Also great places for live music. I performed there twice and it's a very cool spot. And what else? I just love an old school pub. Just put me in a pub and I'll be happy. And that's another thing that I really like about British culture, because in the Netherlands, we have better pub food, but not as much of like a community kind of energy in pubs in the Netherlands. Just you have your drink and then you go. While in the UK, you do everything in a pub, like a pub quiz, there's live music, meeting friends, watching football. So I think that's just very charming and really nice to meet new people and familiar faces in one place.
Going back to the music, do you have a favorite key that you like to write in?
I have to be honest with you. I had years of solfège and music theory, but I'm so bad at it. I don't know even half of the time what keys my song are written in. And it's so embarrassing because every time when we're going to rehearse the songs with the band, I always have to text my producer in what keys we ended up like writing the song, because I only know like 4 chords, 5 chords. I'm not great at guitar. I think I'm a bit lazy when it comes to that. I tried really hard to be like a really good guitarist, but I think other things just caught up with me. And I always say I'm a performer first, songwriter second, and singer third, and I guess fourth, a guitar player, or maybe 10th even. So I write most of my songs like what, G, C minor, D, whatever, and then I just swap them around. But hey, you know what they say in country music, 3 chords and the truth. So that's kind of what I hide behind, I guess. What I do like to do is, for example, it's a very, when did I release this song? Like 2 years ago. It's a song called Old. It's so different from what this EP. It's very like electro pop kind of thing. And it's basically a song about how I, back then as a 25-year-old, felt I was too old to be in the music industry, because nowadays everyone needs to be like 16 or 14, like a new Billie Eilish kind of thing. And I was very frustrated with that, and other people as well. And nobody's ever written a song about that. And I was like, well, let me write a song about it then. And what I tried to do is make like a very happy major kind of chord progression, whatever, in the song, and then clash it with more depressing or like sad lyrics. And I do like to do that musically, to just clash with things or swap things around. So that's why I really also like Not Yet, because it's very happy, almost like a road trip kind of song, but it is about heartbreak and not being ready for love, but one day you will. So yeah, it's very embarrassing actually, but you know what? I'm not afraid to admit that. I'd rather be honest and lie to you and tell you stuff that I don't know what they mean.
Well, I really appreciate your authenticity. It's always, we can only do so much. We can only do so much in 24 hours, 7 days a week. And, if your focus is on songwriting and getting your music out there, and you can do it with the skills that you have, awesome,
And I'm not, it's just like you said, it is just too little time in the day. If I have more time, and it's also sometimes you're in a flow with writing, and then I can tell that my guitar playing is getting better because I'm writing more, and I always do that on guitar. And I do try sometimes, like try new chords out and see how that goes. But I think that's also another reason why I just like to collaborate with other people and write with maybe better guitar players than I do, just to learn from each other and then see what they can bring to the table. And that's, I just love it. And maybe that's also a reason why I don't really like know how to play, because I just like to watch other people play.
So one final question. In your own words, what does living a creative life mean to you?
Ooh, I've been thinking about this over the last few weeks a lot, because my perspective changed a lot while making this EP about creative life. Because from my perspective, I'm the only creative person in my family My mum's in marketing. My dad does something with recycling. We all still don't know what he exactly does, but something with recycling. So they have no idea. And I didn't go to a music college or anything. So I just really started from scratch and see what happens and basically ask people around me to help me and show me things and doing my own research and stuff. So I was very brought up with the perspective of the starving artist, because that's basically what the media tells you. Again, look at those documentaries I watched as a kid, all the movies that are about that. It's always about that. It's or you're a starving artist or you're super successful, but you don't know what's in the middle. And when I first lived in London, that was 3 years ago, from meeting other people and being finally surrounded with creatives who are living the artist life really opened my eyes to the opportunities of what that can be, and that you can change careers and that you can try things out. And yes, it is tough. But I always knew that because my parents did always warn me for that. And I love it now. Now I love it, even though sometimes financially it can be quite stressful. I don't like being a freelancer. It's too much paperwork. It's too much stress about constantly finding jobs and the pressure of that while committing to other creative projects that you're in charge of, like paying the bills and stuff. But what I really love about it is that because of this life, I met so many amazing and talented people who are so supportive. And I've never met such a supportive community than the creative community. And it doesn't matter what you do, where you're from, or at least here in London, it's like that. I feel in the Netherlands, it's a little bit different. But that was actually the reason why I also wanted to live in London or in the UK, because I felt that sense of community is just so special. And that's, I think, the thing that I love most about this lifestyle, that, and again, the community. And for now, I think I can handle it for a few more years. Maybe, I don't know. I also learned from living here and making this EP that you don't know what's going to happen. I'm not saying that I expect my EP to blow up or anything, but you never know. Maybe someone is interested in a song and they want to sync it, and then you get a deal for that, and you can then, I don't know, buy a house or whatever. So, but I think it's worth it to just keep going and see what happens, because that's what I definitely realized that while making this EP, and it happened a few times as well, that literally my life changed overnight, not always in a positive sense, but I feel it's just worth it because it's so much fun and so fulfilling. And it's just amazing to hear what the thing that you love to do most can mean so much to others. And that's always something I forget and try to remind myself, that I'm not just doing it for me because I need to sing on a stage or I feel that I need to write a song or whatever, but that is bigger than that. So for anyone who's struggling like me at the moment, just keep going, because it sounds so cheesy, but it's so true, because I feel it is really worth it. And I also think I would be really, really depressed if I had an office job and would do something that I don't love. And of course, you can't love the thing that you do all the time. But at least if you love 80% of it most of the time, then I think that's already enough and will give you enough fuel to keep going.
Excellent. Pien, thank you so much for joining the show. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the audience before we go?
Well, I know this podcast is mainly based in America, but if there are a few European listeners out there, we're actually going on tour next week. It will be my first UK and Netherlands tour. We're going to play in London. We're going to do some shows in the middle of the country in the UK, a few shows in Amsterdam, and yeah, of course, I'm going to tell you to listen to the EP because it's great. But I'm mainly saying that because if you want to get to know me as an artist and as a person, listen to the EP, and I'm sure you find a little piece of my heart that you'll resonate with. And thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed chatting to you today.
You're welcome. Listeners, please check the show notes to learn more about Pien and follow her on the various social medias. And of course, check out her shows in the UK and buy her album. And as always, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Creative Piecemeal. We hope today's episode left you feeling inspired. this podcast is independently created and produced by the host, Tammy Takaishi. More details about today's guest can be found in the show notes, along with links to the podcast's socials, merch store, and ways to support arts organizations AHA Broadway and New Normal Rep, both near and dear to Tammy's heart. Don't forget to visit creativepiecemeal.com, the official podcast website, where you can leave fan mail, write a review, explore Tammy's blog, and discover the growing collection of episodes. Special thanks to our audio engineer, Alex Rapetti. Additional narration by Dante Jace. Let's keep celebrating creativity in all its forms.